Great. Juraj, you want to respond to any of the questions?
So, about the AI, I think it is our responsibility as elected leaders to make sure that our society are resilient to external manipulation and interference. So that means, first of all, we need to make sure that our norms, laws, and procedures are up to date to the most recent technological advance and hybrid tactics. So we have to be ready for this and to prepare ourselves.
Thank you. Dominic.
Just briefly on AI, I agree, net positive. But in this world of turmoil that we're living at the moment, we should recognize that there are 3 areas where we, irrespective of everything else, need to work together. One is global health, second is climate change, and the third is AI. We need guardrails. We need some principles that unites everyone. And we now have a process inside the UN. We have a G20 Hiroshima process. We have a series of AI security summits. We have a bilateral US-China dialogue, at least we had one. I don't know if it's still ongoing. And we need to bring all of this together at some point in time into some sort of guardrail framework that applies to all of us in order to be able to use all of the net positive that's going to be there.
Thank you. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for the audience. I now hand you back to the organizers who will take us into the rest of the program. Photograph. Oh, photograph. Oh, okay.
But the case of Kosovo is very sensitive for us. Yeah.
Is this the... Can I request you all to settle down, please? We are moving to the next segment. Yeah. This is like the backup thing?
Yeah, just in case. You gotta have the backup thing.
May I request you all to settle down, please? And may I request my colleagues to close the doors? It's my The gentleman here in the front, can I request you to settle down? Right here, please. Please sit down. I can't hear. Ladies and gentlemen, Shashi, this is not your conference. Please sit down and listen to others. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning, who will... 1 minute? Okay. Sorry, it's a false start. ठीक है, इसके बाद दिया तो मुझे बता देना वहाँ से. It's my pleasure to introduce the next speaker and participant who will first speak to us and then join me for a conversation. Honorable Tulsi Gabbard, the 8th Director of National Intelligence of the United States of America, a remarkable career in public service which spans service as a congresswoman representing Hawaii, a distinguished Lieutenant Colonel of the U.S. Army Reserve, and now leads the nation's intelligence community. With a commitment to national security and a legacy defined by leadership and resilience, Director Gabbard embodies the spirit of service and excellence. As the first female combat veteran to hold the position of Director of National Intelligence, she brings a unique blend of military and legislative experience to her role. She is committed to ensuring safety, security, and freedom of the American people while upholding its Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Tulsi Gabbard. May I request you to take the mic, ma'am?
Good morning. Aloha, namaste, Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you so much, Samir, for your kind introduction. He is running a very tight ship here. I want to thank all of you for making the time to come and join us this morning as we kick off this day of critical and constructive dialogue. It's great for me to be back here in India. It's been too long, but it's always such a wonderful and warm experience knowing the rich history of this country and the vibrant democracy that really serves as the foundation for the special bond that has long existed between our two countries. I wanted to start our conversation today by greeting you with aloha and namaste, because contrary to popular belief, these words are not just greetings. They actually both have very deep, spiritual, powerful meaning that for me personally have been at the core and heart of my life, and are what I hope will inspire meaningful dialogue and conversations here at Raisina. When we greet each other with aloha and namaste, what it really means is I'm coming to you and greeting you with respect. It is a recognition of the eternal, divine spirit that exists within each of our hearts. And it's a reminder that we are all connected, that we are all children of God, regardless of our race or religion, ethnicity, politics, our background, where we come from, our status in society. By greeting us in this manner, we are opening the door to have a much more meaningful and deeper exchange that gets past the divisiveness and the partisanship that too often poisons the conversations that we have. It's a critical reminder that what we share in common is far more powerful than that which sets us apart. It's great to be back here in India, and I especially want to thank Prime Minister Modi for the invitation to come here to get together with new friends, to greet old friends here from across the Indo-Pacific region and from around the world. I leave right after our dialogue here to head back to Washington, D.C., but it's been a constructive few days where I've been engaging with our Indian counterparts, working to continue to build off of the momentum that was created by President Trump and Prime Minister Modi's joint statement issued in Washington, D.C. after their Oval Office meeting. The partnership between our two countries has been strong for decades, and under the leadership of two great leaders and true great friends, President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, and rooted in our shared values of peace and freedom, security and prosperity, I'm confident that this partnership and friendship between our two nations and our leaders will continue to grow and strengthen. I'm grateful to be here with all of you because these gatherings are so important, because they give us the opportunity to come together and actually engage in direct dialogue and conversation around some of the most timely and pressing issues that face us all. The theme of this conference couldn't be better: people, peace, and planet, highlighting these fundamental aspirations that unite us. It's the foundation that prosperity, security, and freedom rest. If we are not at peace, we cannot be truly prosperous, secure, or free. And so today, our actions, our dialogue, the reaffirmation of our commitments to these principles, to one another and our partnerships, and our shared vision for the future provide us with the opportunity to build more meaningful relationships and work together as we leave this conference towards the interests of the people, to protect our planet and to further the cause of peace. I'm a child of the Pacific. I was born and raised, first born in American Samoa, raised in Hawaii. I've spent a lot of time throughout my life traveling throughout the Indo-Pacific and working in many different countries. So I'm very familiar with the rich and beautiful cultures, the kindness and hospitality that I've experienced everywhere I've gone, and the rich history within each country that leads to a better understanding of the nuance and complexities that exist within these countries, but also within the relationships in the region. It's a vast and critical region that's not just a geographic space. It is the geopolitical center of gravity for the 21st century. So ensuring peace and stability here is essential to our collective security, our objective of economic prosperity, and our ability to work together to take on the great challenges of our time. And we must tackle these challenges together. Our ability to do so as nations, as leaders, as people, is critical towards achieving our collective goals. Unfortunately, we live in a time where war and conflict is being waged on many fronts around the world. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, founded in 1945 by Albert Einstein and Oppenheimer, has declared the doomsday clock to be 89 seconds to midnight, closer to the brink of nuclear catastrophe than ever before. So your focus again on peace, people, and planet is timely. It is times like this that call on leaders to stand up for these interests that affect us all and will affect generations who will follow. Unfortunately, as we've seen throughout history, simply calling for peace too often invokes attacks and smears. Perfect example is during President Trump's recent campaign for the presidency, he made it a pillar of his campaign to share his commitment to peace and to bring his leadership towards bringing about an end to the Russia-Ukraine war, to stop the killing, to prevent this risk of World War III and nuclear war. And for this commitment, he was attacked relentlessly, not only by his political opponents and legacy media in our own country, but even by those abroad. Despite these attacks and smear campaigns, the American people voted overwhelmingly for him to return to the White House and delivered a very clear message and mandate for peace, which he is carrying out as we gather here today. Now, these goals cannot be achieved by any one person or one nation alone. Our ability to make progress toward a peaceful, secure, free, and prosperous society must be done together, and it begins with us. Now, I want to share with you a few excerpts from one of the most powerful speeches that I've heard in my life that was delivered by President John F. Kennedy at American University in 1963 on this topic of peace. He said, quote, "First, we must examine our attitude toward peace itself. Too many of us think it is impossible. Too many think it is unreal. But that is a dangerous defeatist belief. It leads to the conclusion that war is inevitable, that mankind is doomed, that we are gripped by forces that we cannot control. We need not accept that view. Our problems are man-made. Therefore, they can be solved by man." President Kennedy goes on to say, "Man's reason and spirit have often solved the seemingly unsolvable, and we believe they can do it again." He says, "I am not referring to the absolute infinite concept of peace and goodwill of which some fantasies and fanatics dream. Let us focus instead on a more practical and attainable peace, based on a series of concrete actions and effective agreements which are in the interest of all concerned. There is no single simple key to this peace, no grand or magic formula to be adopted by one or two powers. Genuine peace must be the product of many nations, the sum of many acts. It must be dynamic, not static, changing to meet the challenge of each new generation. With such a peace, there will still be quarrels and conflicting interests, as there are within families and nations. World peace, like community peace, does not require that each man love his neighbor. It requires only that they live together in mutual tolerance, submitting their disputes to a just and peaceful settlement." He closed by saying, "So let us persevere. Peace need not be impracticable, and war need not be inevitable. By defining our goal more clearly, by making it seem more manageable and less remote, we can help all people to see it, to draw hope from it, and to move irresistibly toward it." These powerful words were as powerful and true and relevant then in 1963 as they are today. In the United States, President Trump remains unwavering in his commitment to achieving peace through a strategy rooted in realism and pragmatism. Securing peace through strength, which he speaks of very often, requires strong leadership with a clear-eyed and realistic understanding of the global challenges that exist as well as the opportunities. It requires a commitment to fostering cultural and economic ties that reduce the likelihood of an escalation to conflict, and a dedication towards reinforcing our mutual interests. It requires leaders have the courage to engage directly with both friends and adversaries alike, to increase understanding, to resolve differences, and to work to prevent an escalation to conflict. It requires leaders who are not afraid to speak an inconvenient or unpopular truth, and who ask the tough questions, who challenge the established view or, quote unquote, the way things have always been done, to spark what may be hard but necessary conversations about the realities we face and the best way forward to advance our mutual cause of peace, freedom, security, and prosperity. So just as President Trump is committed to America first, putting the safety, security, and freedom of the American people at the forefront of his policies and his decisions, Prime Minister Modi is committed to India first. Prime Minister Luxon is committed to New Zealand first. This is the expectation of any leader's commitment to their people, to serve them, to put their interests at the forefront of their decisions. But this should not be misunderstood to mean that America first is America alone. The relationships that we build together are critical to advance our mutual interests. And it's why gatherings like this here at Ricine are so important, because it brings us together here, people from over 120 countries around the world, providing us a platform where heads of state, ministers, directors, leaders in business and nonprofits and strategic think tanks can actually come together in that spirit of aloha for robust dialogue and debate that will help us increase our understanding of one another. It is our shared values that will continue to shape the future of our partnerships and the world. And while we represent our own sovereign nations with unique perspectives and unique interests, by working together honestly, transparently, and strategically, we can ensure a more peaceful, free, secure, and prosperous future for our people and the world. Thank you so much. Aloha. Jai Shri Krishna. Namaste.
Thank you. Please join us. Director, I'm going to dive into your speech and ask you a few questions. And I know we have only, say, 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to ask you a few quick questions to expand on some of our own discussions in this city and many other parts of the world, but also some of the things you mentioned here. So first, I think for the benefit of those in India, the Global South, and those who have normally understood what's happening in America from the lens of the big newspapers and big channels, one of the biggest political comebacks, the re-election of President Trump, what does it really mean in terms of American politics? What is really happening? What was the phenomena or the process that resulted in this outcome?
You know, first of all, in American politics, too often our politics is reduced to one party versus another party. I know we're not alone in this, but what was really unique, and it was an incredible experience to be a part of, was to see those barriers broken down just through the course of President Trump's campaign, where rather than taking the approach of being exclusive, you're on my team or you're on the other guy's team, he welcomed people both in the campaign and, as you've seen, in the cabinet, people who don't necessarily agree with President Trump on every issue or not of the same party, but understanding that when we come together around our shared mission of service to the American people, and how can we make their lives better? How can we achieve those goals and objectives that I outlined in my remarks? Then we have the capacity to really make big, significant, positive change that once again is focused on the most important people, which is the people of our country. Mm-hmm. And bringing that focus of the government back to what everyone who works in public service should begin their day with, the mindset of, what can I do in my role, in my job, whether you're a civil servant or you're an elected official, is how can I best be of service? And I think this is what made his victory possible, against all odds, against all of the attacks. As you said, it was a historic comeback story. And I think you see this in his laser-like focus every day in delivering results and solving problems and challenging our own internal norms to make sure that those in government are actually serving the people.
But there is certainly questions in some parts of the world that does it really mean it's an America going into its shell, the island America? How do you respond to those questions that I'm sure you would be faced with as well when you through your travels through the Indo-Pacific?
It just speaks to a lack of understanding that for us to have a president who is America first, who puts the interests of the American people first, should not at all be mistaken or concluded to be a president who doesn't understand the importance of the relationships with other countries and wherever possible to work together towards shared interests. So it's a common misconception, once again, that those who call for peace, as President Trump has, that somehow that is automatically equated to being, well, if you stand for peace, then you must be an isolationist. Nothing could be further from the truth. And that accusation actually speaks to a deeper misunderstanding or a wrong assumption, which is that the only way to engage with other countries must be through some form of conflict or warfare. So It's a positive thing for us in the United States, and I believe for President Trump's leadership in the world, to build those relationships and looking at other means of resolving conflict, and really truly being a president who wants his legacy to be one of being a peacemaker and a unifier.
And how are your allies responding to this?
You know, he has, I think even before he was sworn in on his inauguration day, he had called leaders from, 72 different countries within the first week of having won the election. He continues to engage in a very constructive and productive way with many leaders across Europe, for example, as these ongoing negotiations are occurring to bring about an end to the Russia-Ukraine war. So the warnings that were delivered very loudly within our own media that somehow President Trump would be shunned and that no one would be interested in working with him, the absolute opposite has proven true.
So on that particular point, in the first term of President Trump, we saw the re-energization of the Quad. We saw a new energy in the India-US partnership. And to be fair, all presidents have contributed to this relationship that has evolved over the last 20 years. But he certainly changed, in some sense, the strategic direction of the partnership. What should the thinkers and the watchers expect in the second term? The India-US relationship, the evolution of the Quad, where is it headed? The Indo-Pacific, more specifically.
You know, for President Trump and Prime Minister Modi, I think what we saw, again, with Prime Minister Modi's early visit to Washington was a reconnection of two old friends who, over the years that President Trump was not in office, continued to build upon that friendship. Obviously, that's a personal friendship, but it's one that is indicative of their approach to leadership and their priorities of listening to the needs of their respective people and setting policy and taking action towards serving their best interests. So with regards to the Quad and the other relationships that some of them began under President Trump's last administration, others have begun since. Both he and his team, our cabinet, his cabinet, is already been engaging really from day one with our partners. I can speak for myself. Within 12 hours of being sworn in as the Director of National Intelligence, I was on a plane and headed to Munich for the security conference there, where I had the opportunity to meet with close to 30 of my counterparts from different parts of the world. And what I've enjoyed and appreciated about being able to be here and to join all of you.
Director, in your current role, what are the specific steps you are taking to advance the India-US security partnership? And what should we be doing together and in the region to respond to what's happening today?
Well, this is what I've gained just from spending the last few days here, is being able to sit across the table from my Indian counterparts and to hear directly from them about the very serious concerns that you have here for your own security interests. And to be able to look for those opportunities where we can build off of what is already a very strong partnership that has gone on for quite some time, and again, take advantage of the new administration coming in to pick up that momentum and find those other opportunities from an intelligence sharing standpoint, knowing that in our role, our responsibility is to make sure that we are providing the best, timely, and relevant intelligence reporting to our leadership so that they can make the best informed decisions, but obviously strengthening our security partnership, our economic partnership that President Trump and Prime Minister Modi really laid out in their compact statement when Prime Minister Modi was in Washington, D.C. I think there's huge opportunity for continued growth and continued investment in our mutual interests.
Including a focus on emerging technologies and the frontier tech areas?
Absolutely. It's impossible to have a conversation about both the challenges and opportunities we face without focusing on the very quickly evolving cybersecurity needs, the vulnerabilities that exist, and the need to maximize emerging tech and AI and other capabilities to strengthen our security interests.
No, we are nearly out of time because I know you have to have your wheels up soon. But on a more fun side, what did you do in the last 2-3 days? The cultural experience, something interesting that you did in Delhi in the last 2-3 days?
I ate some great food. No, I had a chance the last time I was here. I spent almost 3 weeks here and had a chance to visit, I think, 7 different states. And as a practicing Hindu, I took a few days at the end of the trip and went on a pilgrimage to visit some holy sites here. This trip was very short, 2.5 days. And I spent all that time meeting with leaders in the Indian government, Prime Minister Modi, and of course our great team here at the U.S. Embassy, who's representing us very well.
But Director, let me just tell you what one of my friends in Europe mentioned to me, that even a business visit to India is a cultural experience.
It's wonderful.
So thank you very much for joining us. Please
Thank
join
you very
me in
much.
applauding
Thank you, everybody.
the Director.
Aloha.
If I could request everyone to please remain seated. Everyone is requested to remain seated. Please do remain seated while DNI Gabard exits the venue.
We will move to the next segment of this In Focus session. I am privileged to introduce and invite on stage His Excellency Dr. Anwar Mohammad Gargash, the esteemed diplomatic advisor to His Highness the President of the United Arab Emirates.